When you think you've seen the worst of HOAs, when you just think they can't do anything more ridiculous, they always exceed your expectations. Karen has always been a woman who lives very far from reality and common sense, and I was aware. Welcome to Prodigy Tales. Make sure you like and subscribe for your top-notch HOA drama. So when I saw the letter she dropped on my mail, I knew trouble was looming. It wasn't just the usual pink slip with violation notice plastered across the top in giant bold letters. This one had the nerve to start with "Dear valued homeowner." The fake politeness practically reeked through the paper. The letter read that due to unforeseen circumstances, the HOA dues would now be hiked by 40%. She even scribbled at the bottom in her messy cursive, "I'm sorry for the inconveniences caused." I stared at it like it was some kind of joke. 40%? These people barely fix the potholes on our street. The most they do is fine me for leaving my trash can 2 minutes too long on the curb or slap a warning when a raccoon digs through the bins. What exactly were we paying for? Raccoon surveillance? There was no way I was going to hand over a single extra dime. The best part was I figured none of the other homeowners would be stupid enough to either. I thought we were all united against her nonsense. But the problem with HOAs is that fear spreads faster than common sense. People saw the letter, sighed, and wrote checks because they didn't want the hassle. That's how Karen thrives. She feeds on weakness. Still, I decided I'd just sit back and watch. I wasn't bending, not for her, not for this scam. I knew she'd push back, but I wanted to see just how far she'd go. If there was one thing about Karen, she never stops when she's told no. She escalates until she makes herself look ridiculous. It's her trademark. Before we dive in deeply, let us know in the comments where you're watching this story from. Weeks passed, months passed, and those ridiculous fines kept stacking up in my mailbox like Karen was running some underground printing press. I didn't even bother opening most of them anymore. I just tossed them straight into the trash. One time she even stapled a final warning in bright red across the front, like I was supposed to get scared. Please. I told myself, I'm not one of those homeowners that will just bend over and get tortured by you. And I meant it. I knew my rights, and besides, I wasn't even sure that 40% hike was legal. It smelled like Karen cooked it up during one of her Chardonnay-fueled board meetings in her living room. But not everyone held the line. Slowly, I noticed neighbors caving in. Checks were being mailed. Dues were being paid. It was disappointing. Every time one of them folded, Karen strutted around the neighborhood with a little extra pep in her step, like a dictator who just won another small victory. It gave her power she didn't deserve, and I hated watching her feed off it. It wasn't long before the paper letters weren't enough for her anymore. One Saturday morning, I was fixing my lawnmower when I heard the click-clack of heels stomping up my driveway. Karen, clipboard in hand. Her sunglasses reflected the sun like she was some kind of celebrity auditor. She didn't even say hello. She pointed her finger right in my face and screamed, "Why haven't you paid your dues yet?" Her voice was so sharp it made my dog bark from the backyard. I leaned against the mower and smirked. "Because I don't feel like funding your empire of nonsense," I shot back. That only made her face redder, like steam was about to shoot out of her ears. As we argued, I noticed my kids walking up the street from the school bus. They looked confused seeing Karen on the porch, clipboard raised like she was about to swat me with it. Karen's eyes darted to them and then back at me. Her tone shifted instantly. She straightened her blouse, adjusted her sunglasses, and muttered something under her breath before saying out loud, "All right, we shall see." The way she said it sent chills down my spine. It wasn't a threat you laugh off, and it was the kind you tuck in the back of your mind and hope never comes true. At that moment, I had no idea what "we shall see" really meant, but I was about to find out in the worst way possible. I came back home after work one day, tired, sweaty, and just ready to collapse on the couch. But the second I stepped through the door, I knew something was wrong. The house was too quiet. No cartoons blaring from the TV, no sound of little feet thumping across the hardwood floor, no laughter echoing from the kitchen. My kids were supposed to be home by then, 2 hours ago. Panic hit me like a punch in the chest. I grabbed my phone and called the school immediately. The secretary sounded puzzled when I asked if the kids had even been dismissed. "Yes, yes," she said carefully. The bus driver confirmed he dropped them off right in front of your house. My stomach sank. I told her they weren't here, and she quickly contacted the bus driver. When he finally called back, his voice cracked a little. Well, after I dropped them off, I saw them talking to a woman by the sidewalk. Blonde hair, sunglasses, floral blouse. Thought it was maybe a neighbor or a relative. My jaw clenched so hard I thought my teeth would crack. From that description alone, I didn't need a detective to figure it out. It was Karen. I bolted straight to her house, my heart pounding out of my chest. I hammered on her door so hard I thought the frame might splinter. When she finally opened it, her fake smile almost made me lose it. "Oh, hi, neighbor," she chirped, like nothing was wrong. I demanded, "Have you seen my kids?" Her eyes flickered, then she tilted her head, and with the most insulting tone I've ever heard, she said, "Kids? I didn't even know you had kids." That was it. My blood boiled. She thought she could play games with me. I stepped closer, and that's when she slipped. With a smirk, she whispered, "Maybe if you had just paid your dues, these things wouldn't be happening." My hands shook with rage. That was all the confirmation I needed. "I'm searching this house." I growled. She slammed the door in my face before I could move an inch. That was the last straw. I pulled out my phone and called the cops. Minutes later, flashing blue and red lit up her perfect little HOA-approved lawn. Officers pounded on her door while I stood there, fists clenched, praying my kids were safe. Karen tried to block them, arms spread wide, screeching about private property and unpaid dues. But the police weren't buying it. They forced their way in. And that's when the truth came out. I followed right behind, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would explode. The officers searched room after room until one shouted from upstairs, "Got something!" We rushed up, and my blood ran cold. There they were, my kids, sitting quietly on the floor of her guest bedroom. They weren't hurt, but they looked scared and confused. My daughter clung to her backpack, and my son whispered, "Dad?" My knees almost buckled from relief. Karen bolted up the stairs, pointing at me like a madwoman. "He told me to keep them here," she screamed. "He said he was too busy to look after them." The officers glanced at each other, not buying a single word. My kids shook their heads instantly. "She said Dad told her to keep us until he came back," my son said, voice trembling. "That was it. Checkmate." The cuffs came out fast. The officer spun Karen around and clicked the metal tight on her wrists while she kicked and shouted, "It's his fault. He refused to pay his dues. This is all his fault." The neighbors started gathering outside, phones out, recording the whole spectacle. Karen's perfect reputation shattered right there on her pristine front lawn. She was dragged down her porch steps in full view of everyone she once bossed around. And I wasn't done with her. The very next morning, I called my lawyer. We built a case so airtight she couldn't wriggle out if she tried. Kidnapping charges, emotional distress, civil damages. You name it, I filed it. When the trial came, the evidence was overwhelming. Karen's little HOA empire crumbled, and instead of sipping Chardonnay at board meetings, she got 5 years behind bars. Bars. Her we shall see had backfired spectacularly. She wanted power, control, obedience. Instead, she got humiliation, disgrace, and a permanent record. My kids were safe, and the HOA never dared to pull stunts like that again. The end. Please like and subscribe for more HOA showdowns like this. Do you think she got what she deserves? Comment below.